the part where it hinders is in relationships because
Mm.
not everyone is open to it. So I find that it's harder dating being a medium, than it is being with my family. Because when I was in a relationship and I revealed it, I had a guy say, "Wow, I wish you didn't tell me that."
Huh.
So,
So did that
so
make you question it at all? Did that
that
make you think like, shoot, maybe my priorities are off in this?
well, you know what? The thing is, if this is who I am and that's a part of me, and if he can't accept that, then that's not me being my true self. And that lets me know, well, he's not the right person for me. Because if he wants me with minus that piece, then he really doesn't want all of me. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes perfect sense. It gets back to that question a little bit before, though, of like that judgment call of this is the real me, and he in this case is out of alignment with it. So that's the problem. Being able to be clear in that versus actually he might be the right thing and the other thing's out of alignment. I think I guess I'll just speak for myself again. That's where I still struggle. And you know what, if I'm being totally honest, and I would imagine you would agree with this, I think in some ways I probably have a much clearer picture of it than I think. It's just there's those old habits, there's that old programming that still makes you feel like no, maybe that's the real you, but deep down somewhere I kind of have a sense of it. But I still struggle with that at times to delineate,
Mhm.
right? To tell, is this me acting as my best self and most authentic to who I am, or is this me using that as a shield or a cover up to do something that's just self-serving or selfish in some way, you know?
So if you really want to get down to the truth of that, so you would actually take that question out of your mind and just go more to your heart and feel into it, like what feels right. Because that's where the true answer is. Your head is always going to mislead you, but your heart is going to lead you in the right direction. And so if you start to feel into it, you'll know what the answer is. Because if something feels off, it doesn't feel right, you don't feel good, then you know that's not right for you.
Yep. Yep.
Or
I
if it
think,
feels like that maybe you were too harsh, then you'll be able to tell from that.
yeah, it's so tough for someone like me. And that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation, because not only do I want people to hear about the services you do and about you, but I think to your point before, there's so many people that just in different ways aren't open-minded to different things, don't want to think about different things. Having an honest conversation like this, where I could say like, hey, here's where it's tough for me to get to. Maybe it'll help some other people that are struggling in that way, resonate with them to some extent, or at least be more open to it. Um, but back to what you're saying about that feeling, it's so tough for someone like me because I'm traditionally so logical. Like I want to understand it at a first principles level. If I can't understand it and put my hands around it, then it's not real to me. And that's a tough thing. If the world truly is such as you say, which I have no reason to believe it's not, where you do have to lean into those feelings, that's tough for a person like me. Really tough.
So then let me ask you this question, because you said that you can't put your hands around it. And if you can't feel it, then you would say it's not real. Is that what you're pretty much saying?
Yeah, almost if I can't explain it, then it's
You
not
can't
real.
see it. So then, you got to think about love, because love is not tangible, right? You have love for a partner, you have love for a parent, you have love for a child. It's like, how can you really explain that? As
Mm.
it's a feeling. So if you allow yourself to have that feeling, then you're open enough to feel for your own intuition and open the door for other feelings. It's just that you put a wall up. So at some
Mm-hmm.
point you stop trusting people and you threw your wall up as a form of protection. And then your mind is telling you the story of we're logical. And so that's why. And it's about you on purpose letting that wall down, letting your guard down.
Yeah. Where my mind goes often, and it's an example. I say it as much to illustrate the issue of being too logical and overthinking, probably more than anything else. But I often go to the extreme example of someone like a Hitler, who my fear is in someone like that's case, they didn't question themselves enough. They didn't think enough. They didn't apply enough logic. They had some, in his case, obviously horrifying, twisted, sadistic feeling that, I should kill a bunch of people and I should do all this stuff. And he just went ahead and did it. Right. And I think there's a lot of danger and risk in people that don't question enough, that they just kind of go with something. But it probably, I don't know, I'll let you answer to it, but it probably goes back to that feel. I think what you would say is for those people, when they're doing that wrong thing, that bad thing that's hurting others, there's something in them that they know that's wrong and they're overlooking that, right? That still comes back to
Right.
the feeling. Is that fair?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Like when something's off, or when you're hurting someone. But then you got to think too, you go to the point of, well, it becomes more about you and it's less about other people. And so like you're not caring about what people think or what they feel. It's more about getting your point
Mm.
across. And so I think that's the danger part in it, is that we are so separate. Although we're not really separate, we pretend like we're separate because we don't allow ourselves to feel or to have empathy. Like we'll put our wall up or we'll go really logical. And as long as we're logical, then we don't have to care about other people. But once we let that guard down and we become more intuitive, you can feel what the other person is feeling. You could feel when the atmosphere in the room shifts. You can feel it.
Mm.
So it's about just really letting your guard down and just being honest. And when you're your true self and you're honest, you have that connection with other people. I think people are so afraid of letting people in, or afraid of being disappointed, or afraid of being hurt. And I think that's why the walls go up. And I think that's why people get hurt.
Yeah, because in some ways it's a leap of faith, right? You're placing a bet that if I put those walls down, if I trust the feeling, it's going to net me a positive outcome. And for some people, it's just like, I don't like the odds of that bet. It just doesn't feel like it's going to pay out at the end of the day. And in a weird or ironic or maybe obvious way, the only way you can overcome that is by doing it, right? You have to start to feel it and see it work, I feel like. And that's where the proof starts to come from. I mean, there's still a part of me that thinks that thinking through things helps. I think it helps to give more clarity and kind of remove things. It's probably, as most things are, as you said before, a balance, right? Figuring out that right balance between the two.
Yes.
Because some people just are too logical in thinking about it. Maybe there are some people that feel too much and then they can't have clarity in that and they're not sure which way to go with it, right?
I agree. It's all about balance. I agree.
Yeah.
It's finding that middle ground, because you do need to think logical enough so that you can support and take care of yourself and know when a situation is dangerous. But then you also need that intuition, because if someone is spinning you a story where they have a little bit of truth and a lot of lie in there, like where they're not telling the truth, you need to be able to feel, is this right? Like, or are they misleading me?